Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the Astro Consciousness Podcast. I'm Millie, and I am here to give you your forecast for the week of November 10th through the 16th. In this podcast, I talk about the astrological energy of the week ahead and how you can integrate it into your personal and spiritual growth. So, I get the feeling that this is going to be a rather short video. There aren't very many aspects, but I think that that's actually really good because after this week and the last 2 weeks of November are packed. They're jam-packed with so many aspects. And of course, we'll get to those in the future weekly forecasts. So this isn't necessarily a week to chill unless that's what you're able to do. But it is kind of nice to have a little bit of a relief considering that November really started off with a bang, right? With that full moon in the sign of Taurus. That I think it was a really grounding full moon for a lot of people, especially if you have felt like you have been floundering a little bit for the last couple of months and if you felt like you were still floundering or trying to land on something since eclipse season. And so, whether you manifested or materialized something in the physical world, right, especially having to do with money or income or a sense of safety, or you landed on a decision within yourself that maybe you had been hesitating to make or to a truth to accept for quite some time. That's the beauty of Earth energy, especially when we have been experiencing a lot of water energy, and we will continue to experience a ton of water energy in the air the rest of November. There's nothing wrong with that. Water energy is beautiful. It's very soul healing. It's what rejuvenates the soul. It's what allows us to get in touch with the deeper, much more profound parts of ourselves. When the element of water is activated in the zodiac, we can have very deep insights, very compassionate conversations with ourselves or others. We can have really interesting dreams. Creativity and intuition are at an all-time high. And on the other hand, whenever we experience the element of water in our day-to-day, and it's heightened, we can feel ungrounded. We can feel a little loopy. So all of that to say that it helps to come back and ground. And if that full moon in Taurus manifested something for you, where you now have a sense of direction, a sense of focus, a sense of organization, or you give that to yourself, and this is a great week to kind of create something like that for yourself, I really invite you to do that. Especially because we begin the week with Mercury retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius. Mercury went retrograde in Sagittarius on Sunday, November 9th, and Mercury will remain retrograde till November 29th. The difference is that it starts at a retrograde in Sagittarius and wakes up from a retrograde in the sign of Scorpio. So this is how I see this Mercury retrograde. The fact that it's starting off in the sign of Sagittarius to me tells me, okay, Mercury in Sagittarius is I am imagining a bigger vision. I am imagining the best case scenario. I am imagining that what I am building from this point forward or what I'm preparing myself for, especially into 2026, expands me and excites me. And it's based on the new truth and life philosophy that I have picked up on this year of 2025. And so that is Mercury and Sagittarius, the way that we perceive ourselves, the way that we perceive the world, what we perceive that we are capable of, that we are capable of imagining and then, creating. And in Sagittarius, Sagittarius is the optimist of the zodiac. It's the philosopher of the zodiac. And the philosopher picks up its lessons and its philosophy and its truth on life based on life experiences. So we have had many life experiences this year, 2025. How is that informing our truth of how we view the world, of how we view ourselves in it, of the vision that we have for our lives, right? How is that shaping our life philosophy from this point forward? Last week's full moon in Taurus had so much to do with, again, a sense of safety with another, a sense of perhaps material safety. And this Mercury retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius says, okay, if something manifested for me, this is what's possible. And as it retrogrades, it's about, okay, it's not that it's not possible. I just gotta be consistent. I have to show up. I have to keep promises to myself and really mind my vision. And then on November 19th, on November 18th, excuse me, as Mercury retrogrades, it goes back into the sign of Scorpio. So what we will be met with there is what are still some of the limiting belief systems around this grand vision. What is the shadow inside of you that might still be lingering that's saying no, or that's too big, or perhaps it rattles again the sense of safety. Am I really able to do this? Do I have the funds? Do I have the support in whatever way I need it? And so between November 18th and November 29th, when Mercury is still retrograde, this is not about regression. This is about recalibration. One of the things that Scorpio does in the zodiac is that it confronts us with our greatest fears, with our greatest shadows. And sometimes, depending on what you're experiencing, it can confront you with the worst case scenario. But this doesn't strike me as that in this Mercury retrograde cycle. But it can confront you within, like, what if this doesn't work? What if I'm being too romantic about this? What if I'm being too optimistic? What if this is too big? No, no. And understanding and catching that narrative and asking yourself, who is that? Where did I learn that? Why is it that every time that I get excited about something, or maybe someone, something comes in and says no? Why do I think that I'm not allowed to have that? I think that those are the questions that will just really help to have some breakthroughs during this Mercury retrograde. Because Sagittarius is the invitation to be the biggest cheerleader of your life. And in Mercury, it's to be the biggest cheerleader of your vision, of your thoughts, of your imagination, of your creativity, of your wisdom. And Scorpio is saying you get to transform and transmute the blocks that keep you from really understanding that that is who you are at your core, that you are powerful at your core. This isn't just about a positive mindset. This isn't about positive affirmations. This is about understanding at a nervous system level. No, not only am I capable of this, but I'm remembering that that's what I came here to experience. Okay. And on November 11th, on 11/11, Jupiter starts its retrograde in the sign of Cancer. It remains retrograde till March 2026. So, what does this mean? When Jupiter goes retrograde, Jupiter is the amplifier of the zodiac. It is the magnifying glass of the zodiac. Every time that Jupiter transits a certain part of our chart, it is amplifying what is there. It is amplifying what we may need to work through. It is amplifying the opportunities that may be there. Okay. When Jupiter goes retrograde, it's saying, okay, now how do you do that from within? So let's say, for instance, that you have Jupiter transiting your 10th house of career. And over the last couple of months, Jupiter in Cancer has shown you this is what's possible. These are the opportunities that are out there. And maybe you got a taste of those. As Jupiter now goes retrograde, now it's saying, how do you connect that, align with that, and manifest that from within? Because by the time that March 2026 comes, we will already be well into the new era of Saturn and Neptune and Aries. and finishing off an eclipse season and finishing off a Mercury retrograde. All of that to say that we will have a newfound understanding of what it means to grow from the inside out, what it means to align from the soul, what it means to manifest really beautiful, wonderful things from the inside out. Because this is Jupiter retrograde in the sign of Cancer, if this has to do more with emotional processing, um, if you are finding that you and someone important to you start a therapeutic process together, right? Imagine like family, right? If this is like the beginning of family therapy, this can actually be really profound and helpful over the next several months between now and March. But it implies that everyone involved has to be willing. Okay. On Wednesday, November 12th, we have Mercury retrograde in Sagittarius come to a conjunction to Mars in Sagittarius. Okay, this is a very fiery pairing. Be mindful of what you say. Be mindful that your truth is not the only truth. Somewhat of the lower expression of Sagittarius. I think it's a fire sign. It gets really excited about its philosophy and it can come off a certain way. The conjunction to Mars is no, but I'm right. No, 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 but no, listen to me first. No, 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 but hear what I have to say first, right? But this is what I learned now. And if, whomever you're communicating with feeling like you're really not listening, and chances are maybe you're not, or someone else is not. Just be very mindful, right? Be mindful of thinking before you speak. Um, on an even more mundane interpretation of this is Mercury rules like the day-to-day things. It rules, errands, driving. And so Mercury is retrograde in the sign of Sagittarius, come together with Mars. Just be mindful of like fender benders, be mindful of when you're stepping, right? If you're going up or down stairs or steps, that you're really placing your foot. I will say, when you want to take advantage of the fact that it's a more mellow week, give yourself the opportunity to organize certain things. If you're able to, give yourself the opportunity to go within. I think that the energy overall through the month of November lends itself for a lot of creativity, for a lot of introspection. The moon will come to a conjunction to the South Node in Virgo on Friday, November 14th. When the moon, our internal processing in the sign of Virgo, comes together with the South Node is an opportunity, especially with Mercury retrograde, for mind and soul to meet. I would recommend that between Thursday and Friday, if you can attend a yoga class, if you can sit in meditation, anything that calls you inward and you need some clarity around, or you want to ask the universe to allow you to understand something from a different perspective, these are the 2 days to sit with yourself, to call in your ancestors, your guides, your angels. Help me see this through the lens of love. Help me see this through the lens of my wisdom and not my wound. Help me transform whatever may feel off into something that I know is expansive, because we are, by nature of our soul, expansive beings. So that's really all I have for you. Next week will be different. I think the next two forecasts are going to be somewhat long, and that's okay. Have a beautiful week. Enjoy the time. Go within. Be mindful of, your day to day. As always, may this be of service. So much love to you. I'll talk to you next week.